Hey everybody, it's Kevin. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am talking about the freshman 15, how to avoid it, and whether you should avoid it. So this article is from Pop Sugar. So Pop Sugar is kind of a, I don't know, I don't want to say teeny bopper, but it's not a scientific source of information. It's a popular source of information, but I came into my feed, so I thought I would review it. I'm not going to scroll down. I'm just going to read some parts of the article and provide commentary. There's too many pop-up ads and places like this, and it crowds out the words. So just listen to what I have to say. Anyway, this is an article that talks about the freshman 15. We know what the freshman 15 are. You go to school, college, whatever, and you're in good shape, and then you come back after that first semester and you're 15 pounds heavier because there's just cafeteria food everywhere. You got the vending machines, and then you have the stress of school, and then you have finals week, and then you're not getting enough sleep, and then you lose your fitness routine. Or you used to be playing sports when you were in high school, now you're not playing sports. All of those things can contribute to the freshman 15. Now what this is saying is you shouldn't worry about the freshman 15. So it talks about this intuitive eating counselor, LDN CPT. I don't know what those letters stand for, LDN CPT. It doesn't look like a dietitian to me, but her name is Sam Previte, Previte, my best guess. She specializes in helping clients make peace with food and enjoy life. Wants freshmen to know that they shouldn't worry about weight gain. I would say they should. And here's why. Because when you're 18 or 19, you're in peak physical condition at that point. That is like the peak. Testosterone peaks, fitness peaks, metabolic rate peaks, 18 or 19. You know, that's it. Muscle mass. That's why guys who are 18 or 19, they lift a weight twice and they gain 2 pounds of muscle. Like I just want to shoot them sometimes. But that's how it is. You know, it sounds kind of unfair that we peak so early, but you know, I didn't design the rules of life. My point is, if you're gaining weight that early, that does not forebode well for you in the future. I can understand why a 45-year-old dad with 3 kids, you know, and working 50, 60 hours a week would gain 15 pounds. Travel, meetings, office food, social events, declining metabolic rate, not a lot of time for fitness and personal time. That's tough. Okay, but when you're 18, 19, you don't have kids, you don't have a job, you don't have a house, metabolic rate is at its peak, you should not be gaining 15 pounds. They say that they talk about the Google 15 too, because Google apparently has this very generous cafeteria, and they probably have vegan options and gluten-free options. I don't know, I don't work for Google, never will either. And it's the same phenomenon, that when you put people in an environment where you can eat as much as you want and you give them a lot of variety, they're going to eat more. You know, that's just basic science. And it's the same. They've done experiments too back in the 60s or 70s when you could do experiments like this, and they locked people in these hospital wards and they gave them unlimited access to these vending machines, and they could have whatever they wanted, and they gave them, you know, cakes and pastries and all the high fat, high sugar things, and these people just gained tons of weight. Some people were eating several thousand calories a day when they were given unlimited permission. Unbelievable. Fortunately, it's not that bad in colleges, and right now, with a lot of colleges are on lockdown, and these poor college students, they go to these schools, and all they can do is sit in their dorm rooms and do Zoom meetings all the time. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a very good college experience to me, but it is what it is. Anyway, she goes on to say, Previte wants to prevent freshmen from the same pain she went through. Read on to learn why restrictive dieting is harmful. Yes, that's true. Restrictive dieting is harmful. Okay, but there's a difference between dieting and restrictive dieting. And there's no clear definition of either of these words. So restrictive dieting, is that anorexia? Is that just eating 1,200 calories a day? I mean, what is restrictive dieting? And what is dieting? You know, dieting can be good, it can be bad. It just has this negative stigma these days because we think dieting is bad for you. Well, yeah, if you do it the wrong way. But if you want to lose weight, and if you need to lose weight, there's no other way. You know, you've got to cut something. You've got to restrict. I don't like to use that word either, but you've got to restrict something, right? That deficit isn't just going to appear out of nowhere. So dieting is a necessary tool if you do it right. If you go full-blown anorexic, now you have problems. Worrying about weight gain means we are giving into diet culture. Again, these words are kind of nebulous. What is diet culture anyway? Is that just a culture that places too much emphasis on looking thin? Well, I can see that, but the thing is, thin, fit people, especially females, thin females get more attention from men, right? They get more attraction on dating apps, they get more swipes, they get more everything, right? They just have they have more access, more options. You can say that's wrong, but that's just the reality, right? Men are attracted to fit women. They're not attracted to really overweight women. Hate to say it, but it is what it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just that's how the brains are wired, and it's hard to convince your brain to be attracted to something else. It just is. Anyway, I've done a whole video on diet culture. I don't think diet culture is really the problem here, but the worry about weight gain is an external thought that is triggered by diet culture. Again, it's this external force. I think most women, this is an article geared towards women, by the way, so that's why I'm singling out women. But women, they need to look fit. Okay, they need to have a certain body weight, not like an exact number, and they can have certain different body sizes. But like I said, fit women get more attention. Okay, that's why I think they should take the freshman 15 more seriously. Okay, now if you gain the 15, you can lose the 15, especially when you're young. But why gain it in the first place? I think what we should do is educate teenagers and young adults how to eat right. Okay, that's what they need. Now there is another end of the spectrum here where they go too far and they end up developing an ED. Now obviously we don't want that, but it's this binary way of thinking. Like you either restrict and develop an ED, or you don't care about how you look, you don't care about your diet, you don't care about gaining weight. There is a middle ground here that seems to be lacking in this space. Anyway, she says, what if we shifted our focus internally to how do I feel? Yeah, that's important too. Plus, there are so many wonderful things to think about and experience. Yeah, and that's one of the things that eating disorders take from you, is when you are enmeshed in an ED, you sacrifice everything else. You sacrifice social life, you sacrifice other hobbies, you sacrifice things that used to make you happy. You become a really miserable person. I was never more miserable and never more alone and never more douchey than when I had an ED. Nothing else mattered. And it took over my mind. So that is one end of the spectrum. You have the anorexia, you have your orthorexia. You know, the orthorexia is not really an ED, but that is disordered form of eating. And it does rob you of experiences. And I think about what my college experience was like and what it would have been without the ED. It would have been a lot richer, I think. So she has a point here. So let's go on here. She says that diets don't work. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance in that. Because the thing is, a lot of people have successfully lost weight. That's what gets lost in this discussion. In 2007, Tracy Mann, who wrote a good book, by the way, I think it's called Secrets from the Eating Lab. I think that's what it is. She's a psychologist up in Minnesota who has a PhD in psychology, conducted a review of every randomized controlled trial of diets that included a follow-up of at least 2 years. Okay, well, I like the follow-up of 2 years. How many RCTs are there that have follow-up after 2 years? And the thing about these follow-ups is there's a lot of recall bias. So it depends on what it depends on what the participants are telling you. And we don't have, that data can be really flawed sometimes. Anyway, she and her team discovered that 1/3 to 2/3 of dieters regained more weight than they lost on their diets. Well, that's quite a range. 1/3 to 2/3, 33 to 67. You know, that's, how is there so much margin for error here? So they regained more weight than they lost. And I would like to see how they lost it. You know, did they lose it really fast? That's usually a good predictor of future regain, is how fast you lose it. Kind of a paradox. I don't see anybody losing weight over 18 months, which would be the smart thing. If you had 15 pounds to lose it in 30 weeks. You know, why not? 30 weeks, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a long time. That's, what, 7 months Okay, so 15, half a pound a week. Who couldn't lose half a pound a week? And is that really going to trigger survival mechanisms? Is your brain going to rebel? Now, if you lost 15 pounds in 2 months, yeah, that might be a little more serious and a little too aggressive. She said that diet Previte, gosh, why do they have to have names like this? Previte or Previte explained that this proves, be careful of that word, proves. Very few things in science are provable. Now, you can present data and evidence that suggests that this hypothesis is true. Okay, I'll grant you that. But to say that it proves, I'm not going with that. Very few things are provable. Prove. So be careful of that. It should say explain that this demonstrates, okay, that dieting is a predictor of weight gain. That is true. I would say really aggressive dieting is a predictor of weight gain. That was true for me. I was really restrictive. I cut out food groups. I thought about it all the time, and then I ended up with eating disorders in my 20s. So that's, I'll grant her that. Dieting can be harmful to our physical health. Well, is there a difference between dieting and weight loss? Because if you need to lose weight, is that harmful to your health? I would say no. In fact, I would say it doesn't really matter how you lose it. Just lose it. As long as you don't go anorexic or bulimic. I would say those are the only two legitimate ways of losing it. Okay? As long as you're not binging, purging, you're not going crazy, it doesn't matter what your macros are, is what I'm saying. Yo-yo dieters had a higher risk of heart disease in women who stayed at consistent weight. I can see that. Although, is it the yo-yo dieting, or is it the mental stress? I mean, what is it? Or is it the binging that comes with it? So is it the up and down weight, or is it the behaviors? So that would be interesting. It's hard to isolate that. Remember, you're asking people to track their behavior and give you accurate data. And that's usually not true. Disordered eating habits can also affect your mental health, make you feel depressed, isolated, and out of control. Wow, that's probably the best line of this entire article. It can affect your mental health and make you feel depressed. That was all true for me, totally. Life is much more than chasing a smaller body. Yeah, but you know what? We're all vain, and I think this is where Health at Any Size gets it wrong. Like, they just want to pretend like we shouldn't care how others perceive us. We shouldn't care what our bodies look like. We shouldn't care how much we weigh. We shouldn't have any vanity. That's just not who we are. Okay, we like to be vain. We like to be attractive to other people. We will go to great lengths to get approval from other people. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we belong. Obviously, there are limits to that. And you should think about your health. But let's face it, everybody loses weight to some extent for vanity. We want to look good in this outfit. We want to attract somebody into our lives. That's just part of the deal. Okay. College for me was the most prominent time of disordered eating habits. Yes, and it is for a lot of people. In fact, I would say 18 or maybe 17 to 23. That's when most EDs arise. Okay, that's when you don't know where you're going, you're confused, you don't have any goals, you're immature, you're insecure. I mean, take all of that, combine it, and it's not hard to see why somebody would develop an ED. I wish so badly that I knew what intuitive eating was back then. So I'll talk about intuitive eating in another video, which I already have, but intuitive eating works, but not right away. I think you have to combine intuitive eating with a sound knowledge of nutrition. You don't have to take 3 or 4 credits in college to know how to eat right. I mean, if you want to do that, that's great. But you need to know some principles, stuff like caloric density, organic versus non-organic. You need to be able to find items in a grocery store. You need to be able to read a label. You need to understand some common ingredients. You need to understand what macros are. Do you need to understand every stage of the citric acid cycle? Probably not, but that's good to know too. Social events were ruined, blah, blah, blah. We know restrictive dieting doesn't work. So now they're saying restrictive dieting doesn't work. Well, is it dieting per se, or is it restrictive dieting? I think they are more correct when they say restrictive dieting doesn't work, because that's true. If you go too far, it will backfire. Backfired for me, backfired for this author, backfires for everybody. So if you're trying to lose 30 pounds before that wedding in 8 weeks, don't go for it. Yes, it'll be great if you got some compliments at the wedding, but it's not worth it. Okay, listen, 30 pounds, lose it in 30 to 60 weeks. You'll be fine. It's easy. See, weight loss is easy if you do it the right way. If you play by the rules, that's the point. If you want to improve your health, you can absolutely focus on health promoting behaviors that will honor your body. And I would say that weight loss follows behaviors. So behaviors are the what do you call it? Locomotor? No. Locomotive, whatever. That first car of the train, okay? That's the engine, and then the weight loss is the caboose. If you think that. So the caboose follows the engine. To make an analogy. Okay, you have to focus on behaviors first. So if you're binging, purging, or you're binging on chocolate at night, or you're, I don't know, like chewing and spitting out entire mountains of food like I did, then, okay, you're not going to get the results that you want. It's really that simple. Okay, so focus on the behaviors. If you're not getting the results that you want, assess your behaviors. Do an audit. Okay, what behaviors are driving this? What can I fix? What can I improve? That's where you should start. Take the focus off dieting and exercising to lose weight and do things that you actually enjoy. Okay, well, that makes sense. Do movement that inspires you and builds confidence. Focus on behaviors you know have a positive impact on your health. Yes, and if you do that, you should arrive at an ideal weight. Okay, not the other way around. But this is another area where I disagree with Health with Any Size. They assume that if you do all these behaviors and you end up obese, then that's just how the gods want it. Well, not really. Because I don't know a lot of obese people who live healthy lives. I just don't. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just judging them. But obese people have something going on. Okay, they didn't end up that way. And if you are obese and you live a healthy life for a year, year and a half, you're probably not going to be as obese as you were. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to be like a Biggest Loser contestant. Yeah, that might be unrealistic. But if you're 300 now and you adopt healthy behaviors and you do that every day, you're not going to be 300 in the end. All right. If you're surrounded by friends and people who talk about this, yeah. Listen, if people are talking about something you don't want to talk about, just don't contribute to the conversation. In order to be successful and stay true to your food freedom ways, find your anti-diet tribe. I don't think you should make friends based on which diet they follow. It's kind of like vegans who only hang out with vegans and keto people who only hang out with other keto people. You shouldn't base your friends on their diet. You shouldn't base it on their political affiliation. You shouldn't base it on which sports team they follow. Just for the same reason you shouldn't make friends based on the color of their skin, right? Or which country they're from. Like, that's kind of, I don't know. I find that superficial and shallow. Okay? You don't need to find an anti-diet tribe. If your friends are talking about things that you're not interested in, you just need to find new friends. And college is a great way to do that, because that's really the last time in your life you're going to make a lot of friends. Hate to say it. Grad school, yeah, you can make some in grad school. But once you get to 25, 26, 30, that's the end of the friend age. Well, anyway, that's a different discussion. Anyway, I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. What do you think about intuitive eating, food freedom, and the Freshman 15? Let me know in the comments below. And just some final comments here on the Freshman 15, how to avoid it. Avoid the cafeteria. Cafeteria has a lot of greasy food, Chinese food, and French fries. And I mean, the cafeteria I had at my school, it wasn't that comprehensive, but I remember what they served. It wasn't that great. I never ate there. Ever. Okay, now I was on the other end of the spectrum where I packed everything in a cooler every day, and I wasted an hour, hour and a half just preparing my meals. I mean, did I not have anything better to do? So I was on that end of the spectrum. Vending machines, avoid alcohol. That's another contributor too. Although, if you're a freshman, well, you know what? Let's face it. Freshmen, even though it's against the law, they do it anyway. So let's just face it. So alcohol, fast food, cafeteria food, vending machines. If you want to stay trim and slim, avoid those. Okay, learn to make your own meals. You don't have to be a gourmet chef. Even if you live in a dorm room, you can still make some halfway decent meals. Okay, if you have a stove and a microwave, you know, that's pretty much all you need. It just requires a little bit of diligence. One thing you might want to consider is taking that nutrition class. That's one thing I should have done when I was in college. I should have done econ, I should have done nutrition, and I should have done creative writing. Those are 3 classes that I should have taken and I didn't. Maybe that and dance, okay? Not poetry and not pottery, okay? I'll never do those. But I'm saying that if you have some interest in nutrition and you have some basic tools, you should be able to make it work, okay? You don't need to have a $50,000 kitchen to eat right. Also, take advantage of the fitness center wherever you are. Most colleges and universities have a decent fitness center that is included in your tuition. And they usually have a lap pool and weights. And I remember they opened one when I was in school, and it's still a really nice facility. And wow, I wish that had been there when I first started. Although I wasn't really interested in fitness when I started school. So the freshman 15, yes, it is a concern. You should not gain 15 pounds your first semester. That is a problem. There are ways to prevent it, okay? And follow the tips and advice that I have in this video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some of my free resources below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.